I, Simon Taranike, swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth and nothing else but the truth. So help me God.
I, Moses Juma, I swear that the evidence that I will give is the truth. It is nothing else but the truth. So help me God.
Thank you. And again, may I welcome you to this session with the Public Accounts Committee, where we are going to raise a number of issues in terms of the 2015-2016 Auditor General's report pertaining to the accounts from ZINARA. And I hope and trust that you came prepared, because we did give you ample time in terms of preparation. The first one is on the infralix tax obligations, where the Auditor General noted that the Infraflux Private Limited received a garnish order from Zimbabwe Revenue Authority, ZINARA, that is for understatement of income and tax, the value-added tax amounting to the sum of 46.9 million for the year 2015. You then responded that the matter had been escalated to the level of your principals for the final resolutions in the meeting. My question is that what caused the matter to result in a garnish order being issued against ZINARA? Yes, the matter now been resolved.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Can you indulge me to interject you on a point of order? I wish to express, Madam Chair, my disappointment that the Chief Executive of ZINARA is not here, and she has sent her apologies, and because she's engaged, she has an engagement with the ministry. But knowing the procedures of Parliament, this ZINARA was informed of this meeting. Must have been 2-3 weeks back, and the Chief Executive should have had the courtesy to leave a diary open, because we are an institution of the state, a creation of the Constitution, and I think we should get precedence even ahead of the Permanent Secretary. I'm not soliciting a response, but I think I should have it put on record that as a representative of the people, I'm a bit disappointed. I'm not a bit disappointed, but very disappointed that she should have prioritized this engagement better than engagement with the Permanent Secretary, because there's always time to see the Permanent Secretary. Yeah, but it's not. I mean, there are procedures to be followed for us to invite the CEO here. And it costs money for the state to invite the CEO here, and she decides not to turn up. I'm disappointed.
Honorable Mr.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Chair. Perhaps to just buttress that point, should we not as a committee decide on whether we proceed with engaging with them without the CEO? Because I think we may not be able to get what we need. They could be given time to go and find that CEO and see whether they can't come in. I'm just putting it on the table, Madam Chair.
Yes, I think the same disappointment is also shared by the Chair. When you mentioned that she has another engagement with the ministry, and I really wonder here, because the ministry is a parent ministry, and this is another arm of government, critical in terms of oversight. And really, I think the engagement with the ministry should not have actually taken priority over the engagement with Parliament, because it's for a specific period, and then the meeting with the ministry can actually take place at a later date.
Madam Chair, again, I think I would second the sentiments expressed by Honorable Mr. Arabwi, that we ask them to fetch the CEO. Okay.
Okay, and at this juncture, may I then ask the delegation from ZINARA to just give us 5 minutes as we decide on the way forward. We'll call you shortly. Link Private Limited received a garnish order from Zimbabwe Revenue Authority, the ZINARA, for understatement of income tax and value-added tax, that is VAT, amounting to 46.9 million. You responded by saying that the matter had been escalated to the level of principals for final resolutions. My question is, what caused the matter to result to having gone for a garnish order, and has this matter been resolved? Can you kindly update the committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. What we did, after the garnish was received by Infralink, we submitted a position paper to the Ministry of Finance, and as we speak, it has been held in abeyance, and no garnish has been effected to that effect.
Honorable Cross.
Madam Shamisa, how did this come about? What were you doing that sparked off this claim by ZINARA?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will hand over that to my Finance Director, Mr. Taranike.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think in the interest of disclosure, I'll give you a fuller story on the formation of Infralink. Around 2010, during the time of the World Cup in South Africa, the government of Zimbabwe, I think, was desirous to redo the east-west corridor, the Plumtree to Mutare border post. By then, the Minister of Transport was Honorable Boche. The Minister of Finance was Honorable E.T. And all due authorizations were done. And the project was funded by the Development Bank of South Africa. It had the government of South Africa involved. It had Sunrail involved. And a company called Infralink Private Limited was formed to be managed by ZINARA. The shareholders of Infralink Private Limited were Group 5 of South Africa with 30%, and the Minister of Transport, represented by Honorable Goche, with 70%, and managed by proxy through ZINARA. This is a private company. The interests of Group 5 were only to protect the construction period and also the tolling. The tolling was done by a subsidiary. So this was a national project which we were supposed to apply for national project status. We did attempt to apply for that, but we stopped short of completing the process. Only the supplier was given the status, but not Infralink Private Limited. By that time, the relationships, I think, in the Ministry of Transport and in the Ministry of Finance, the Commissioner, was so good that there was no tax raised. Tax was raised much later, from 2016, and this tax arose because we did not complete the project national status like we did, I think, we are doing for the Giga project. The other part is the way the deal was structured was such that it did not have any government guarantee. The project itself was the guarantee. It had created sinking funds, maintenance reserve accounts, where we were supposed to build the money to about 110 million in 10 years. So that was part of the security of DBSA. But as time went on, especially with the paperwork not being good at Infralink, the tax department, I think, seeing the lump that we were reserving for the security, then invoked the provisions of the tax where we as Infralink were at fault. So that's how honorable members how the tax item arose. It arose out of the structuring of the Infralink deal as a private company. And being a private company, Honorable Chinamasa actually said it must pay tax. We have, since then, it also raised tax issues between ZINARA and Infralink, because ZINARA funds are ceded to Infralink, so on transfer to Infralink it was being treated as invoiced. So ZINARA was now being taxed. So we did two documents, one for ZINARA and one for Infralink, primarily asking for SIs. We have since received the SI for ZINARA. We are awaiting for the resolution of Infralink. But the text have been held in abeyance until then. Thank you, Honorable Madam Chair.
Thank you. We now move on to compliance with the Roads Act. Honorable Matienga. Sorry, I'll come back again. The Auditor General noted that the administration's expenditure for salaries, allowances and other expenses amounted to 11% of revenue, exceeding the 2.5% of the revenue requirement of Section 15D of the Roads Act, Chapter 13.18 by 8.5%. You then responded by saying management has begun to work on this issue and expect to resolve this by 2017. So my question is, what measures have you put in place in 2017 to contain expenditure within 2.5%?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have since rectified that position. We have identified our major cost drivers, and now we are operating within the stipulated 2.5%.
Then my other question again is, why have these measures not put in place prior to 2017 to spend within the prescribed thresholds?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it was an oversight on management, which I'm saying we have since rectified.
Honorable Cross.
Madam Chamisa, how on earth do you do that? How do you reduce your overheads from 11% to 2.5%? It sounds like you're doing some very imaginative accounting, and I hope it will stand up when the Auditor General visits you next time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think when the Auditor General visits us next time, you will find that we have since rectified that position.
How? How?
By reducing expenditures. There are cost drivers that drive expenditure, and we have since done that.
What have you reduced?
Costs that are related, from a question, these are costs related to management, to staff expenses. And when you look at staff expenses, you looked at issues like travel expenses and other related costs, and these we've tried to arrest.
Have you fired people?
We haven't fired anyone as yet.
I'm afraid I find that very difficult to believe that you can do that. But let's look at your numbers. I wonder, Madam Chair, whether we couldn't ask for these figures, these figures to be given to us, please.
Yes, Madam Masio.
Okay.
Yes, we'll gladly
okay, how soon?
We'll submit the consolidated report in 2 weeks' time to this committee. Yes.
Honorable Satsoli, still on the same point, eh? Okay.
Madam Chair, reducing expenditure from 11% levels to 2.5% requires specific measures to have been taken. I think it would help if the CEO could give us the exact measures that they took. You know, she says we've managed to rectify that. We've managed to control expenditure within 2.5%. But what actions specifically have they taken?
Can I also add on to that? Just an indication of the figures that we are talking about here, the absolute figures that we are talking about, that which constitute the reduction. What absolute figures are we talking about in terms of money?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The major cost driver were operational costs. And these were actually inflating to the level of 11%. And some of the costs were associated with intertour operations. Intertour operations are separate from us as ZINARA, as an entity. So you find that when you look at our operational costs, when we submit the report, you find that these constituted a major chunk of the 11%.
Honorable Mchonga.
And again, she may not have that on hand, but perhaps later on. You did speak to issues that most of the cost drivers were actually around staff expenses. And that for me is a red flag. What exactly in terms of staff expenses? Are you saying people were being paid more money for travel, their allowances that they were not supposed to get? What exactly? I hear the intertour, but what exactly were the cost drivers that you have cut down that were associated with staff expenses?
Thank you, Madam Chair. When you look at the 11%, what constituted the greater portion of that were operational costs plus the staff costs. And of the staff costs, when you break them down, we also have travel costs that are associated also with TNSs and everything. So we have actually arrested that area to say you can only travel when it's justified and the travel is adding value to ZINARA as a business.
In other words, there were circumstances where people were just traveling for no particular reason.
I think when you look at the audit report, it also touches some of those areas where maybe allowances were paid. It's all in that report. It also covered that aspect.
We move on to 3 funds held in banks under liquidation. Honorable Maruma.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The Auditor General reported that the Road Administration had funds amounting to 2,172,000 held in Allied Bank, which was under final liquidation. She noted that there were no reports available to show that you were attending creditors' meetings at these institutions. In your response, you indicated that a claim was registered under Depositors Protection Corporation and the Mass High Court, and you were waiting for the outcome from liquidator Chudo House Consultants Private Limited. My question would be, why were ZINARA representatives failing to attend creditors' meetings?
Yes, Madam Masu.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. During that period, really, I'm not sure why they were not attending meetings, as I wasn't part of the organization then.
Honorable Chair, that was not sufficient. She took over as a CEO, and this question came from the Auditor General, where she could have actually had time to find out what had exactly happened before she took over. That could not be an excuse.
I can answer that, Madam Chair. I think during that time, someone was supposed to be appointed to represent ZINARA in those meetings, the creditors' meetings. And unfortunately, it didn't happen. But going forward, if ever we have cases like that, we'll make sure that ZINARA is represented, because the funds that are still in that account that way, that are in that the ZINARA funds amounting to 2 million in that bank really are public funds that are supposed to benefit road authorities in road infrastructure projects. So it's very important and critical for ZINARA to make sure that we safeguard public funds.
In particular, yourself as CEO.
Yes.
Has ZINARA made any recoveries of these monies, these amounts?
Through you, Madam Chair, we are still awaiting the final ruling on that position.
When do you expect the ruling?
We are not yet sure. We haven't been finished with the dates yet.
My final question is, what measures is ZINARA taken to ensure that future funds are secure?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As ZINARA, our operations are governed by statutes. They are governed by regulations. They are governed by policies. So we are making sure that as we generate funds, collect funds, mobilize funds, we are guided by such statutes.
Chair, those statutes were in place even then. So it's more than that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an issue of compliance and professionalism and corporate governance added to that.
Thank you.
Honorable Cross.
Sorry. You realize that the deposit protection scheme will only reimburse you about $1,000. You realize that? It's virtually worthless. It's meant to protect small depositors, not people like yourself. You're a big financial institution, and choosing your banks is critically important. And it's got nothing to do with regulations. It's management, and it's financial management. And I would hope that you're not depositing funds with banks that are dubious. There are several banks in the market who technically are insolvent, and I sincerely hope that you're staying a mile away from them.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was a learning curve for us, so we are being very prudent when it comes to that. Thank you for that.
Okay, we move on to contracts with service providers. Honorable Marita.
Thank you. The Auditor General reported that the road administration had no contracts with third parties for the collection of overload fees, collection of presumptive tax, and for security services at toll gates. You then responded by saying you were in the process of putting together service level agreements, and that ZIMRA and ZINARA were engaged on terms for the service level agreements, which was expected to be finalized in 2017. My question is that please explain to the committee why ZINARA failed to enter into contracts with third parties.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that was an oversight on the part of ZINARA, and we have since rectified that by entering into service level agreements. It was an oversight on our part.
Madam Chair, from the responses of the Chief Executive, it appears there's so much oversight on their part. I think they overlook a lot of very important things. And I don't know what measures you've put in place to ensure that things like this don't occur in future. Because service, third-party contracts are very important to your business. I don't know how you operate with getting into an agreement which is not contractually binding with third parties. What have you put in place to ensure that you are there, you sign contracts with third parties?
Maybe before you respond, I think to assist the committee, if you can avail the service level agreements, that will satisfy the committee in terms of what you have done. And I think we emphasized that in our invitation letter to yourself, addressed it to yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It will be done. We will submit the service level agreements.
How soon? By tomorrow? By tomorrow, Because these are already there, so it's a question of pulling out from the file make a photocopy to Parliament.
Okay, tomorrow we'll be able to submit
Thank you.
the service level agreements. Maybe to answer Honorable's question, we have a legal department within ZINARA. So we've also put that department to task to make sure that service level agreements are signed before we receive a service from third parties.
Honorable Cross?
These are your 2015 accounts, and I see that you have been unable to provide supporting documents for an amount of $437,000 during the audit. Your response was that you haven't yet been able to provide supporting documents. Can you tell us what currently is the status?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We haven't yet managed to find the documents supporting that $437,000.
And if we add that to the other items and the same audit report, so there's several $1 million which you don't have supporting documentation for in this particular audit.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, what you are saying is very correct. We haven't been able to find supporting documents to such funds.
Is this delinquency continuing?
No, Madam Chair. I think you see from the 2017 audit report that we have made tremendous effort to bridge some of those gaps and to close some of those gaps.
Yes, Honorable Maridat.
As CEO, it is obviously of interest to you to know what exactly transpired for you to be not able to get supporting documents to such expenditure. I mean, can you explain? I mean, you answered with that you were not there during this time, but when you came in and you saw this delinquency, what explanation did you get?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have put in systems that will make sure that we have a copy of documents with every director. Every director has to have copies of such documents so that in the event of the directorate responsible that they don't find the documents, at least we'll be able to find them with another directorate so that such cases don't happen. And we've also put in control measures to make sure that people adhere to set guidelines and standards. And we also have policies that guide our operations, our day-to-day operations, and we are sticking to those. We are operating within the confines of the policies.
Honorable Sansole.
The Auditor General observed that the board members' tax liability was paid by ZINARA without approval from the relevant ministry. She also indicated that board fees and cell phone allowances amounting to $137,000 for the period January to September 2015 were not taxed. Board members also were paid fuel allowances amounting to $28,000 during the year under review, which was also not taxed for the entire year. You responded by saying that you are going to regularize this in 2017. The question is why did ZINARA decide to pay amounts not authorized? And why were you not tax compliant?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have since rectified that issue. With the current board, we are making sure that their allowances are taxed, and we stick to the stipulated levels as far as other benefits are concerned.
Honorable Madondo and then Honorable Cross.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to know why in the first place that happened. I think it's very key. If it was an error of an office of some sort, Or is there any penalty to that effect? Because you cannot just say we have rectified without really looking back to the person who did that and what action taken against that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, no action was taken then. But going forward, with the new administration that is there, we are making sure that people are brought to book, guided by the statutes that govern our operations.
Can we be told how many board of directors, how many directors you have on the board?
We are supposed to have 12 board members. Yes.
How many actual?
Last week, 3 more were added to the board. So now there are 12.
So what's your actual board?
It's 12 members.
12.
Yes.
You're at full complement now.
Yeah, now we should be having a full complement.
Can we have a list of your board fees and allowances? A comprehensive list.
Okay, Madam Chair, it will be submitted to this committee.
Yes. How soon?
We can do that
Tomorrow
with
or
today.
today? End of the day today?
Okay. Can we just submit together with the other requirements tomorrow? Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We move on to taxation of allowances. Honorable Mshonga.
These were not processed through the payroll, and not subject to dimension income tax. You then responded by saying that you ensure that all allowances and benefits pass through the payroll. So the first question is, what measures have you put in place to ensure accountability? I think the answer is another question. I think it goes back to the previous question. Your responses are that you do something because something has gone wrong. But what does it mean about those individuals that have facilitated and violated this particular system? So, for example, one of the things that we want to know as committee is, in fact, how much are we talking about in terms of wrong telephone numbers? How much are we talking about in terms of private mileage that was being given? And like I said, secondly, surely these people that were responsible for not doing what they're supposed to do are still in ZINARA. What is happening with those individuals? And I think your answer about you are doing something about it does not cut. Because it means we actually have people who deliberately have violated. We have people that have benefited from that violation who are sitting in your management. And so what is it that you are doing about it?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, the facts are there for everyone to see that we violated ZINARA back then. And what I was alluding to then was that since I came in, I've made sure that we do everything by the book.
I agree, but I'm saying these people have violated the process. We have 2 people that have violated things. We have the person who has not done the work that they were supposed to do in following procedure, and that person or those persons are still within the organization. We have a management that has benefited wrongfully to this process. Have you gone to get back the money from them? What has happened? I hear you're wanting to change and do things differently, but people have to be held accountable to the things that they've done. And my question to you is, what has happened? If nothing has happened, then the answer will just be, we've done nothing, and it is okay, we take it up from there.
You are very right. People have to be held accountable if they do something wrong. And as of today, nothing has been done to those who are purported to have done that.
Honorable Madondo, Honorable Maridat, and then Honorable Sansal, in that order.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Any plans towards that we are actually putting in place?
As for now, I didn't have any plan to revisit those issues. But now that this committee is concerned that nothing has been done to the culprits, then I will engage my board and make sure that the correct sorry?
Disciplinary procedure will be followed.
Yes.
Out of interest, Madam CEO, boss, this is about management of finances. Could your finance director, was he part of the ZINARA team then?
In 2015, he wasn't part of that team.
Okay.
Amongst the delegation that you have, who was there in the previous administration?
Okay. Amongst the delegation that I have with today, I have the technical director, Engineer Moses Juma, and behind me, Mr. Precious Murove.
What is Mr. Murove's position?
Ms. Murove is the Administration and Human Resources Director.
Do you have been part of this? I mean, both these things are processed by management. Could they have been part of the team that processed these allowances and, and fuel awarded?
Through you, Madam Chair, during that period in question, Engineer Moses Juma was the acting CEO, and Mr. Precious Murove was the acting finance director.
So, Madam Chair, what it means is that we have people in this room that were part of this. Through you, Madam Chair, I would love Mr. Juma to favor this committee with a response as to why this happened, and the gentleman who was also acting finance director to just give us some understanding of what exactly, why was it done this way.
Engineer Juma.
Maybe I would need my acting finance director to assist me on the, I may not have the information readily available, but maybe my, Mr. Murove was the acting finance director, maybe may assist. For now, I didn't have the facts with me.
Madam?
You mean within the delegation there's somebody who is going to respond to the question? Yes. Can we get the response, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. With regards to the allowances, Madam Chair, the matter has been noted, and I can confirm that all benefits and allowances, they are now being computed through the payroll system. With regards to fuel,
Madam Chair, can I interject so that he doesn't waste his time and he doesn't also waste our time? My question is pertaining to the period under review. You processed it. I'm wanting you to give us an understanding of why you processed it this way without following procedure. Because they should have gone through payroll and they did not. And you were responsible for processing it, or somebody under you was responsible for processing it, and you knew the way it was being processed. You are telling me that it has not been rectified. I'm saying, why was it done this way then? Can you zero in on the period that we are talking about? Why was it done this way then when it was done?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was an oversight on our part, but as it stands, since 2016-2017, the benefits and allowances.
I don't want you to talk about 2016.
I think we are referring to the period 2015.
We're talking about 2015. Why was it done this way? Because I don't think it was an oversight. Give me an understanding of what oversight means. Because this was done. It it was a commission. It was something that was done. It wasn't done just over a period of 1 month, but it was done over a period. So it cannot be an oversight that you continue to do. You knew exactly what was going on. I want you to give me an understanding of why it was done this way and not the way that you are doing it now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The matter of allowances and benefits, it was an oversight on the part of management where they were not being taxed. However, we have corrected it.
Madam, excuse me, can you please help me to help you? Help me to help you. It was an oversight on the part of management. This was processed by some pair of hands. Are we together? This whole thing was processed by some pair of hands. Either your pair of hands or somebody who was under your authority. I want to understand why it was done this way. Please don't tell me it was an oversight. Tell me exactly what inspired you to do it this way. Because now you're doing it the correct way. Why were you doing it this way? And who exactly was doing it? Both management then says it was everyone's responsibility and no one's responsibility. It was your responsibility as acting finance director to ensure that these allowances go through payroll, and they did not. And I'm asking you why they did not go through payroll.
Yes, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will reiterate that within our structures, yes, we have management and executive. Through the audit, this anomaly has been noted, and we have since rectified the anomaly.
Thank you, I think we are wasting our time. Let's move on to the next question.
Thank you. Honorable Madondo, and then Honorable Mshonga, and Honorable Marumao, in that order, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I think here it is known, it is a fact, that when given allowances, they are subject to be taxed. And for one to say it was just an oversight, can he define the meaning of oversight? Because obviously, if something is to be taxed, we have to tax it. What do you mean by oversight, by not taxing the allowances that were supposed to be taxed? Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Mshonga, and then Honorable Marumao.
Yeah, just as a follow-up to that, now that they were not subjected to that pay-as-you-earn, and perhaps it's for Madam when you come through, what's happening with that cost? Who bears that cost? Is that cost back to ZINARA? Is that cost going to go back to those who are supposed to pay? I just want to know where the responsibility for that payment is with. The second one is perhaps just to get an appreciation that when you talk about home telephone allowances to management, where exactly in management are you referring to? And you remember earlier on I had said it would be interesting to actually see the figures around that allowance. So for example, you would indicate how much money a person who is in the management gets as home telephone allowance and as fuel allowance. But really, most important one, we now have a cost and money that needs to be paid. Who is paying for that money?
I'll answer that one. The responsibility lies with the employee.
Can we just get the last one, then you can? Okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The responsibility lies with the employee who are supposed to be taxed.
So what you remember I asked you earlier what it is that you are doing, because for me it's corporate governance issues. So this issue was raised at board level, and the board didn't make a decision, because you were saying to us, now that we have raised it, you are going to go and do something about it. But it means at the time that this anomaly was raised, and I'm sure the board looks at the audited accounts, they looked at this
and yourselves, and you had no problem with it until we have raised this, even though there is money that is supposed to be paid.
We have problems with it because it's a prejudice to ZINARA, not only ZINARA, but to the nation, because these are public funds, like what I said before. So I think the corrective measure has to be taken.
Madam Chair, I have a huge problem with this. These are public funds, and we have hungry people in Mapuku, in Urungwe. And for you that's not good enough. This money must be paid back to the nation. And what measures have you put in place to ensure that this money is recovered? Either from the gentleman that is sitting behind you, who says it was an oversight. I've just sent for someone to pick a dictionary so that I get an understanding of what the meaning of oversight is from the English Scholars Dictionary. This money must be recovered. What are you doing to recover this money on behalf of the people of Zimbabwe? These are public funds, remember.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It will be done. The money will be recovered.
How soon? When? How much is it, and how soon is it going to be recovered?
We'll finish this committee with the amounts and the names of the people who are owing, and it will be done.
By when?
Give me a week from now, and it will be done.
That means next week, Tuesday.
Yes.
Tuesday next week. It will be the 6th of March. Okay.
Yes,
And can
Madam.
the gentleman behind respond to the question from Honorable Madondo on the oversight? What do you mean? Can you enlighten the committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As alluded, Madam Chair, within our structures, we have officers who do the payroll processing and also the management who are responsible in making sure that the tax computations are done. So when I meant oversight, I meant the responsible management did not do due diligence in making sure that the benefits are computed in terms of tax.
Okay, Honorable Madondo.
I don't know whether it was an oversight by not processing these allowances through the payroll system. It becomes an oversight. Can he justify that? Because my worry now, if he remains the admin manager, keeping us the wrong information, we get worried a little bit. These are public funds. We need to be very much accountable to it. So I think we really need clear answers to it.
Chair, before you respond, I hear the oversight on payroll, but you were a beneficiary to this, isn't it? So there was oversight in both your looking and providing oversight, but you were also, you as an individual, actually benefited. So you actually received money that had not gone through the payroll as an individual. So there are two things that you did. You did not do the work you were supposed to do in supervising, but you also benefited from a violation of a system. And you are telling us that in both instances you didn't know what was going on? I have difficulties appreciating that.
Madam Chair, can he respond? Can you kindly ask him to respond to what Honorable Msairambu has said? Because he was, there's an issue of omission and commission. He didn't process through payroll, and he's a beneficiary. Can he just respond to that?
Also,
Honorable Marmaoko.
yeah, what I wanted to add on is, if you say it was an oversight for what period? If it was a month or so, then really would understand. But not for the whole year. Then you treat that one as an oversight. You are supervising. You are also benefiting from what you know you were not supposed to be benefiting. And then you tell us that that was an oversight. Definitely not. Would you tell us something better?
And Madam Chair, for the record, were you a beneficiary of this oversight? Can he be asked to respond, Madam Speaker, because I want to follow up. Did you benefit from this?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Maybe through you, Chair, if you allow us to do the computations of the...
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Figures.
Madam Chair, I get a bit concerned if that gentleman starts ducking and diving. The question is simple. Did you benefit or not? It's either you benefited or you did not benefit. In the absence of computation or with computation, you either benefited or you didn't benefit. That must be simple. And
may I remind the gentleman that you also took oath before you started making your input on behalf of ZINARA. So you are under oath. It's just a reminder.
I'll ask again, did you benefit? Did you or did you not?
I benefited.
Thank you very much. Why was that difficult to respond? You benefited to the tune of for how long and to the tune of how much?
I cannot confirm figures now, Madam Chair. As I said, this is a matter that we need to see the computations of the errors in taxation, and then we will make a submission to the committee.
And the period?
I believe it's 2015
to
2016.
2 years.
In 2016, we noted that all employees with, for example, service level, conditions of service vehicles, they are now taxed through the payroll system, depending on the engine capacity and other benefits that the employees and management are getting. These are all now passing through the payroll system.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think I would want to direct my questions to the Director Technical. Given that he was the chief executive by then, would you confirm that this happened behind his back, that he was not aware that allowances are being processed not through payroll? Thank you. And also, is he also a beneficial to this allowance that were being processed outside payroll?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I benefited because that period under review, I was an employee of ZINARA, so I benefited from that on transactions that were done outside the payroll.
How long? The period?
I cannot confirm the period, but definitely within that 2015-2016 period. But maybe I would need to, through the office, to check. But definitely, the period under review, I benefited.
2015-2016.
Yes.
Okay. Through you, Chair Joseph, another question was he not aware that these allowances are being processed outside the payroll?
Engineer?
I became aware when it was raised by audit that there was an anomaly in the way we were processing the payroll.
Madam Chair.
Honorable Sansoli.
Yes, I think now that both gentlemen have admitted that they did benefit from this anomaly.
May you please speak up, Honorable?
Now that they've admitted that they did benefit from this anomaly, I think what we need, is it possible to provide evidence of the fact that this amount has been recovered by ZINARA? In other words, that the pay as you earn and whatever penalties have arisen from that were actually recovered. They were paid by ZINARA but recovered from the employee's consent. And also evidence of the fact that payroll, this now go through, in fact, the period subsequent to this, since that period they've been going through the payroll.
Just as a final one, Chair, just that you take note that in fact we now have a board that was also being paid irregularly. We have management that itself was benefiting irregularly. And in terms of corporate governance, one then wonders who is responsible for what. Because both the structures that are supposed to be doing supervision, all of them were basically in violation.
Yes, who guard against the guards? Because maamchita mbudzi iri kudya payakasungira. Honorable Ziva.
Madam Chair, I also want to add a question to the CEO. Is it a question from the responses that were given by the then acting CEO and the acting finance director? Is it a question of competence?
Let's pick up Honorable.
Okay, is it a question of competence on these two men? And if so, why did ZINARA then deploy them to other sectors? Is it something that will make ZINARA effective, efficient, or it will actually scramble or destroy the organization? I don't think it's really an issue of competence. If they were appointed to those positions, whoever appointed them to those positions had done their due diligence as far as competence is concerned. And I'm sure during that period and period before, performance appraisals were done that would actually confirm their competence. Thank you. My question is, why have they, if you have noted this from the auditor reports, that this was happening and they seem not to even know that it happened maybe over a period of a year, why did you redeploy them to other positions within ZINARA? Is it going to make ZINARA effective or it will destroy ZINARA? That is my question. I'm sure no one is indispensable, but when it comes to redeployment, I'm also guided by my board. There was a board which was providing oversight as far as corporate governance is concerned then. And from also the submissions of the committee, you also noted that during that time, also the board was also benefiting irregularly. My question is, in your own view, is it good for the organization? Funds.
Yes or no?
No.
I suggest we move on to 8 revenue reconciliations. Honorable Matianka. The Auditor General highlighted that there was no evidence to ascertain that the administration carried out monthly reconciliations on remittance from agents. You responded by saying we are in the process of devising methods of having actual records of the imported fuel from independent organizations for reconciliations to be done. Transit fees are going to be collected at the port of entry under the ease of doing business initiatives. Tight monitoring is going to be put on the agents that collect vehicle license. My question is, have you implemented the said measures? Yes, Madam.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we have implemented the measures. We are now collecting vehicle licensing and transit fees through a system that is
Okay, we move on to payments to contractors. Honorable Maruma Oko.
The Auditor General highlighted that the amount paid to the contractor to carry out servicing works. Oh, sorry, can I come up again? The Auditor General highlighted that the amount paid to the contractor to carry out road servicing works at one commando and police general headquarters, PGHQ, were above the contract price, and some of the payments amounting to 740,000 were made without supporting documents. You then responded by saying that in future, proper documentation will be attached as recommended from the first quarter of 2017. My question therefore is, the excess amounts were not authorized. Why would the administration pay for amounts not authorized?
Yes. If a project is being done and there's variation to that project, approvals have to be received from the respective principals. And in this case, it wasn't done. Maybe my colleagues can help me on that one.
Yes, please. Engineer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I note the work that was done at one commando in the police. There was certainly payment more than what was the original contract price, because there was some variation of work, but maybe at that point, maybe no proper paperwork was done to cover the variation. But on the ground there was variation, but later we noted that, and we did put some paperwork in place to cover the additional work that was done within those two security areas.
Honorable Chair, it is difficult for me to believe that the paperwork had to be done later. Honestly, how would you then pay before you get the paperwork? And how would you know that the work has been done without the paperwork? How would you do that?
During implementation, Honorable Member, we've got a team that monitors implementation, and then they measure the actual output of work done. So that's why I'm saying there was a variation from the original scope of work in those institutions.
Taking that there were variations, yes. But how would you then go further to pay without any documentation? You wait for documentation, I suppose, and then you pay. But in this instance, you went and paid before the documents were brought forward. How did you do that?
Before he responds, I think the issue here is not about whether or not there was variation. The issue is how you paid without documentation. Variation, yes, there will be variations, and we know that. So don't focus on variation. We are focusing on the documentation, because for you to effect payment, there must be some documentation. So it's not about variation. Variations will be there every day, but it's about documentation. You paid without documentation. How did you know what you were paying for? That's the question. So please, in your response, don't use the word variation, because that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about documentation and payment.
Engineer?
Yeah, I note that was an anomaly. We've made sure before payment all the paperwork is in place.
So how did you pay? What you paid on the basis of what? If there were no documents, what did you pay on the basis of?
Honorable Tsiba?
My question, Madam Chairperson, is how urgent was it that you would pay without the documentation, and is it possible for you to furnish the committee or bring documentation on who was the contractor on this certain project? Who was the contractor that you would pay without any documentation? I think that is very important.
Engineer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you want me to bring the documents of who the contractor was? will comply, Madam Chair.
Yeah, because engineer, you are not saying anything. This is why the question is still, bordering around the documentation, because documents actually inform you on what to pay.
Yes.
How did you dream you could just pay without any documentation? It's just simple. And it's not an anomaly, because you cannot dream that there's going to be this payment and you quickly pay without a document. You can't.
Maybe allow me to also, like what she's saying, the paperwork around those two projects, maybe I'll submit the paperwork for those two projects.
Honorable Chair, that's not the issue. He is an engineer who knows what is happening on the ground. He is the person who initiates any document for payment, because he knows exactly what has been carried through. For him now to go and pay before documents were actually before him, that's the anomaly that you are not actually giving us satisfactory answers.
And also, who was the contractor? That's maybe that too. Maybe that might give us
Honorable Ziva mentioned the question of who was this contractor that could be paid without any documents, and how urgent was this business in terms of payments.
Please, on this response, don't tell the committee that you want to go and find out, because this was a major project, and you must know. As operations director, you must know who was doing this.
The contractor was Bitumen World. It was Bitumen World.
Sorry?
Bitumen World was the contractor.
Who owns it?
I'm not too sure who owns it, but the person we're dealing with, his name is Hitzman.
Hitzman.
It's Hitzman.
Sisman. How do you spell that? Because we are meaning as well.
It should be ZIETSMAN.
Zitzman told you that the amount is now 748,000, and then you paid without documents. Is that what happened? That he came and he said, look, there's been a variation, so the amount now is not this much, it's now 748,000, and then you paid. Is that what happened?
Did you get any documents from this Sisman?
Yes, Madam Chair, documents
for the supply of a service?
Yes.
Quoting a price?
Because before we pay there's an IPC for work done. So the IPCs should be in place. That's why I was saying I would need to retrieve those IPC that we used to pay for this work. Certainly there was paper work generated first from, once there's an IPC, my team goes to the ground, they assess, and they also do a report. So both the report and the IPCs should be in place, and those are the papers that informed the payments.
Why were these not made available to the Auditor General? That is why we are on this point, because those documents were not made available. Okay. Because from the way you are saying it, it's actually an elaborate paper trail.
Yes.
Yeah. So why was it not made available to the Auditor General?
Maybe I'll need to verify on this one. There was also an issue where part of our paperwork was also taken by some investigating agents, including ZAC, and there was also a forensic audit. Some of our paperwork was also taken, and I would want to also submit these papers could have been taken by, but I'll need to check. But there was paperwork when you did pay, but some of our papers were taken by the investigative agents during that period.
Let's not waste our time. This man now is not saying the truth. The Auditor General here discovered that there were no papers. So you can't tell us that papers went there, papers went. That's not. Why don't you say you did not have papers then, and then we raise the case? I'm sure. Let's go ahead. Let me.
And with the SAC, you don't actually give original copies. You give copies. You photocopy. And it's like you are saying you gave the documents. So you have given away the information without any retention of what the documents contained.
let me proceed, Honorable Chair. It's obvious.
Yes, I know.
What measures have you put in place to ensure payments are supported now?
Yes, and I think this one is for Madam Masio.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For all projects that are done by road authorities now, before we pay, we need the interim payment certificates. And our team, which is headed by Engineer Juma, has to make sure that they verify that work was done, so that we are satisfied that money was deployed for the intended purpose that it was initially intended for. So this is now being done.
Honorable Chair, we are talking.